Welcome to another episode of Book Depths. In her book The Art of Being Alone, Renuka Gavrani examines the distinction between loneliness and solitude and encourages readers to value and benefit from their alone time. The book challenges society's expectations and promotes self-examination, so guiding readers toward their dreams, happiness in solitude, and embrace of self-reliance. Beginning her writing career in 2020 and having since enthralled over 2 million readers, Gavrani is a writer with more than 2 million readers. Her second book, The Art of Being Alone, combines fiction with life lessons, emphasizing Gavrani's fortitude and thankfulness to her medium readers and followers. The book is divided into two parts. Part 1. Turning Loneliness into Solitude. Chapter 1. Stop romanticizing loneliness. This chapter probably tries to refute idealized or false hopes connected with loneliness, implying it can be more cruel than death to nurture such hopes only to see them crushed. The author notes seeing movies that romanticize life and experiencing an adrenaline surge, but she also notes that everyone already unconsciously romanticizes their life, possibly resulting in dangerous future expectations. The chapter illustrates these false hopes using the common movie cliché of a broken character being saved by another via love or friendship. Emphasizing that nobody is coming to magically save you, the author relates her own experience of waiting for a Joey and Chandler, like friendship. Thinking of ideal friends is like building a graveyard of hopes. Rather, the reader is urged to see themselves as the main character in their own particular life movie. Chapter 2. The Pain of Hiding Your True Self. This chapter explores how people try to become an ideal version that everyone loves by hiding their true selves and fearing they would be considered as a weirdo. To fit in, this entails saying yes to things they detest, dressing in awkward attire, and using words that would cause someone to crace. But this continuous attempt to satisfy others causes one to lose touch with their own wants, tastes, and ideas. So separating one from who they really are, from who they have evolved to be. The author suggests that rather than the lack of people, loneliness results from a loss of the actual self. When you cannot find yourself inside, true loneliness results. Ironically, trying to fit in leaves you hating being with yourself, which makes others find it difficult to accept or love you. The author emphasizes the need of one's own ideas and feelings by sharing personal experiences of saying yes when wishing to say no, so reflecting the ideal version for others. This pattern begins in childhood and lasts as we try to fit into popular groups, which hides our actual selves under layers of behavior. The chapter ends with the observation that our souls stop communicating with us, making alone time difficult because of the buried, unexamined self, much as we stop talking. To those who ignore us, the next chapters seek to enable the reader to grow more in line with their actual self. Chapter 3. Your Own Self. This chapter questions how long one can hide their actual identity and be different for everyone around them, leading to the loss of the real you. It also addresses the ingrained need to fit in and be accepted. The author relates this to opening several tabs on a computer, which causes the actual personality to crash. The author acknowledges, too, trying to conceal her actual self in order to be desired. The chapter then addresses self-love, defining it not as self-pity or external adornment, but as knowing yourself and accepting yourself, both the good and the ugly parts. Hiding the dark side simply helps it to flourish. The author notes that even villains inspire empathy since they show that it's human to experience all kinds of emotions, so challenging society's pressure to be always good. Silence of the inner voice results in outside search for the definition of self-love. The author talks about her own awareness of occasional selfish behavior and how knowing this truth helped her establish reasonable expectations in her relationships. Real self-love is about knowing and embracing all sides of oneself, turning weaknesses into assets, and establishing an inside home where one may be truly herself. Emphasizing that knowing oneself is a lifetime trip rather than a short fix, the chapter then follows how self-love develops with self-knowledge. It advises techniques like approaching your mind directly during alone time to identify your ideas, and triggers instead of fearing or suppressing them. Another important component is to discover the real you by transcending society tags and labels, so knowing thyself. The author shows our natural capacity to accept someone completely by using the example of how we view infants free from judgment. Gathering outside tags causes one to lose authenticity. The chapter exhorts readers to see that one tag cannot define their whole being, and to free others and themselves from labels. At last, the chapter counsels to define who and what you are, not as a basis for self-examination, since it is usually simpler to pinpoint what you dislike. To develop their values and think for themselves, readers are urged to create a list of items they oppose together with the reasons behind them. Still, a warning is advised to keep these dissenting opinions to oneself, since not everyone is receptive to different points of view. Emphasizing the need of sticking to one's values, the author relates a personal story of not wanting to drink in college despite peer pressure. Knowing what you don't want improves your standards and draws like-minded people. Chapter 4. Passion for Solitude. Starting with Wayne W. Dyer's, "You cannot be lonely if you like the person you're alone with." This chapter opens with an emphasis on the need of self-acceptance in enjoying solitude. Emphasizing the need of each person walking their own path, the author contends that we often search others to make us believe in something and feel lost when they leave. Creating space in your heart for yourself is absolutely essential for feeling safe and loved when you are alone. Expecting others to be at your side always is unrealistic. Being among people should be a bonus, not a means of escape from oneself. Seeing their trip as a treat and savoring the small pleasures of life alone, the chapter exhorts readers to decide to love themselves. The author makes clear that she is not trying to drive people away, rather she is trying to not forget herself. Among the noise of the world, the chapter ends with putting solitude as a privilege for development that leads into Part 2 of the book. Part 2, Turning Solitude into Your Growth Period. Chapter 5, Applying the Art of Being Alone. This chapter distinguishes between consciously practicing being alone to stay connected with oneself and being alone because of a lack of contacts. It draws on Georgia O'Keeffe's experience, who sought freedom in being alone after yearning solitude in New Mexico for her work. Other historical figures mentioned are those of Nikola Tesla and Vincent van Gogh, who chose solitude for their work. The author contrasts this with the perspective of solitude as loneliness, something to flee taken by the present generation. She contends that the system we live in, including social media, is meant to profit from our need for validation, so ensnaring us in a cycle of pain. People who concentrate on their goals sometimes choose to be alone, underscoring that in a distracted society, concentration is a new luxury. The constant consumption motivated by tech companies is related to our incapacity to control our minds and attention. True direction comes from within. Solitude is required to hear it and helps us avoid living only like replicas of others. Artists choose solitude to produce authentic work and come to be real to themselves. The chapter then describes how one might practice solitude: eat, consider, and then reset. Our bodies need time to break down food. Similarly, our brains need time to process ingested material free from continual input. Conscious solitude helps the brain to process knowledge and relax from outside noise. Alone with ourselves, our real selves show through our thoughts. Emphasizing the need of detoxing your brain every day by filtering trash, curating opinions, and analyzing beliefs, the chapter focuses on the art of getting bored. Oftentimes, creative people and well-known writers get their best ideas when not actively searching or working. We hardly stop in our always hectic life to consider. Ideas flow from a relaxed mind more than from a stuffed one. The chapter presents the Italian idea of dolce far niente, the beauty in doing nothing. Doing nothing is being present and cutting off all kinds of entertainment. Getting bored in a world of easily accessible, cheap entertainment is an art that develops self-control and generates original ideas. Discover how to belong to yourself. Nothing stays forever, thus depending on others for continuous company results in loneliness when they go. The chapter exhorts readers to create a happy life with varied interests and activities so that they always have something or someone to love, including themselves. Contentment with one's own business results in real relationships based on love rather than need. Quote, "You are who you are, whether you like it or not, so why not like it?" Chapter 6. Turn Loneliness into Growth. Period advises readers to embrace their aloneness and use it for personal development. One should make reasons for happiness instead of waiting for life to offer them. The author muses over her own experience of feeling lost following college and comes to see that she was the only one absent. We usually neglect to support ourselves even though we easily help others. The chapter seeks to equip readers with knowledge on how to be their own friend and make use of alone time for development. Chapter 7. Make a New Best Bud stresses the fact that the road to success can be lonely and questions society's expectations of how one in their 20s should live. The author talks about her choice to concentrate on her objectives and befriend successful and accomplished people who will always support and give confidence. Readers are urged to see their alone time through the prism of their future successful self, so developing and aiming toward their dreams. For personal development, solitude should be seen as a luxury and an opportunity. Encouragement of readers to make their dreams their best bud and begin a self-improvement trip with this new friend closes the chapter. Chapter 8. Constructing a Dream Life Plan. This chapter underlines how one cannot get at their goal without knowing where they wish to go. It challenges the conventional definition of success as only money and worldly goods, implying that these are sometimes manipulated aspirations rather than personal ones. The author describes this as a well-designed system that saps our capacity for autonomous thought. Readers are invited to have specific ideas on what success and other values like peace mean to them personally, and to have clear strategies to reach them. We underline again the need of alone time to think independently, free from outside influence. Spending time alone helps one define their actual needs free from control. Often the fear of making bad decisions results in following the crowd. But the chapter exhorts readers to reject this and define everything for themselves. One must personalize their definition of success and happiness, since these are found inside their own heart and cannot be obtained from outside sources. Readers are advised to make their own decisions and think critically, so they may take responsibility for their life and act as though they own it. Chapter 9. The Action Plan. One cannot create a dream life without knowing what they detest about their present one. Readers are invited to list at least 2 compelling reasons behind their desire for change. Analyzing the variations between the present and desired state in many spheres helps one to create a conscious list of things one hates, so guiding towards a dream life. Real change calls daily action in line with the dream version of oneself. Readers are asked to list 5 aspects of their present life they find unpleasant. To reject living in an imaginary bubble of toxic self-love, and to accept the difference between potential and current reality, one should be merciless to herself. The chapter next offers guidelines for acting. First, the power of one thing. Emphasizing everything at once causes one to give up. The secret is to decide one major problem to focus on at once. Often, the outcome of life events is mental health. Hence, solving the most important problem might have a domino effect. Second step. One large-scale action. Rather than nebulous objectives, concentrate on creating specific daily actions that propel the intended result. The author describes how her one big action is daily article writing on Medium. Readers are advised to name one daily action they will do connected to their one big issue. Third step. Know your nature and match your activities. Making oneself into habits incompatible with one's nature results in low mood and give up. The chapter relates the story of trying to be an early riser even though one is a night owl. Finding out how you best fit and matching your activities with your natural rhythms will help you to enjoy self-improvement. Rather than adhering to a strict schedule, the author likes to write when she feels it. Readers are urged to be flexible and creative, changing with their tastes. Chapter 10. Create an addiction to your alone time. This chapter compares finding alone time fun with spending time with loved ones. One can make alone time addictive by purposefully including things that satisfy them and connect with their inner self, much as loved ones create an addictive presence by means of positive interactions. One little daily happy chore can change the perspective on life. Joy cannot be waited for. It must be actively generated. The author stresses intentionality in appreciating the little pleasures, like the scent of tea or sunlight. She talks of her delight in evening walks in her hometown despite its restrictions. The chapter then offers strategies to make alone time irresistible. Seek out sources of delight. Make deliberate happy events for your daily life. Discover new skills and challenge yourself. Even for just 15 to 20 minutes every day, learning new skills can make life interesting and result in surprising development. Feed your brain knowledge. The belief that learning is monotonous is refuted, emphasizes how the entertainment and educational sectors might deter intellectual interests. By reading books and researching subjects of interest, readers are urged to own their education. Suggested to monitor learning is a Feeding My Mind folder or notebook. Encouragement of readers to educate and train themselves while having fun with themselves closes the chapter. Chapter 11. Gain independence. Especially when one depends on others to satisfy his imaginative aspirations, this chapter emphasizes the difference between them and reality. It underlines that your needs cannot be satisfied by others. Do the things you want to do with others by yourself will help you most importantly. To satisfy her needs on her own, the author talks of organizing her own movie night and single picnics. Readers are urged to romanticize the activities they engage in for themselves, buy flowers for themselves, and set themselves out on dates. The chapter ends with the analogy of life as a dinner party where one must serve oneself to obtain what one wants. How the book helps with personal growth. The Art of Being Alone challenges readers to see solitude as an opportunity for personal growth and self-discovery. It promotes self-awareness, self-acceptance, genuineness, goal planning, and independence. The book exhorts readers to face their ideas, value their values, and pinpoint their interests and detests. It also offers ways to welcome uniqueness and reject false identities. The book also stresses the need of matching actions with one's natural inclination and of doing little, consistent actions toward goals. The book promotes self-reliance so that readers might meet their own needs free from depending on others. Through self-reflection, learning new skills, and appreciation of little events, the book also offers ideas for turning solitude additive. Why should we read this book? The Art of Being Alone. Solitude is my home. Loneliness was my cage. Questions. The way society sees loneliness and advances personal development. It provides doable tips on inner voice and self-reliance. The book is relevant since the author suffers with loneliness. Its aims are increasing self-discovery and self-acceptance. The author's path and the artist's case studies in the book might motivate readers to embrace solitude, apply their imagination, and follow their dreams. Anyone looking for inner peace, self-improvement, and happiness will find great value.